And now it's time to talk about what happened with Luis Ortiz and Zach Tawatari. Guys, good to see you. Also, former Texan Seth Payne from SportsRadio 610 is with us. So, Seth, our satisfaction survey is on the big screen. Luis will take care of you. I'm guessing we'll see a lot of very unsatisfieds on the board tonight.
Are those the only adjectives I can use? I need something, a stronger adverb and a stronger adjective there. I'm gonna whatever the equivalent of dismayed and disgusted is. So I'd say very, very dissatisfied.
Very unsatisfied, Luis.
Yeah, can we add one and say very, very unsatisfied? Yeah, I think that it was a very bad game from the Texans. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with both of you guys. Let's do it. Very, very unsatisfied. Nothing went right for the Texans today. It was bad from the second snap of the game, and it never got any better.
I'm not going to go very, very because it's only game 3. And when you consider that a lot of these guys did not take a lot of reps in the preseason, not an excuse, but I'm just going to say very unsatisfied. The key for the Texans right now is not have a 2 or 3 game losing streak. It's all about a 1 game losing streak. Limit the damage, and certainly there's a lot to learn from in this game. So I'm going to say very unsatisfied. That's what we're saying, and now here's what the Texans are saying.
They kicked our butts today. They are a great team, and they will continue to be doing great things. But we know what we are, and that's not what we put on the field today.
We'll go back and look at the mistakes that were made on the film and see how the Texans can help the Texans. Right now, today the Texans help the Vikings a lot.
Yes, so much negative to focus on. Seth, can you help us understand what's going on with Laremy Tunsil?
Oh, yeah. He's committing penalties at a rate I don't know if it's ever been seen before in the NFL. Last year, the leading penalty getter or receiver in the league had 20 penalties. Laramie's got 10 through 3 games. And there's honestly, there's no excuse for it. Look, the league is putting an emphasis on offensive tackles not aligning too deep in the backfield. So you know what offensive tackles can do to be sure that they don't do that? Check with the official. Same way receivers do every single play. The false starts are unforgivable in that, look, it's going to happen in a loud environment, but it's been happening for years now with Laremy Tunsil, and they are drive killers. 3 of the first 6 drives the Texans offense had in this game were stopped by offensive line penalties, pre-snap penalties. It's really bad. The Texans were in field goal position, and then they had 4 straight pre-snap penalties. The 4th one was declined. It was an illegal formation on Laremy Tunsil. It's honestly, the Texans have, aside from the offensive line issues, they had 12 penalties last week. The team had 11 penalties this week. The average in an NFL game is 6. So it's a complete and total inattention to detail by the team. Some teams are going to get more penalties than others, and sometimes it's no big deal. This is an absurd number of penalties, and they're harmful, damaging penalties. They're not aggressive penalties. If a guy gets called for holding or an illegal hit or something like that, then so be it. Those are aggressive penalties. These are just boneheaded, idiotic penalties. Juice Scruggs, when he was flagged for bobbing his head too abruptly, which was a legitimate call, he did the exact same thing the next play. I mean, this is, and it's reflected also in the way the offensive line is playing. They're making dumb mistakes. They can't be trusted. They are the weak link on this otherwise really good football team, both in terms of their sloppiness with the penalties, but also just with their bad football play, their bad pass protection. It's really unforgivable. And look, Laremy Tunsil and Titus Howard are 2 of the most highly paid guys on your team. They should be leaders, and leading by example is a big part of that. Paying attention to detail, especially as an offensive lineman, is kind of a big deal.
And it's interesting you bring that up because the 3 of us have never played in the NFL, but this job requires serious attention to detail. And if you keep making the same mistakes, we know in this profession, we do everything we can to fix it and try to not make the same mistake again.
Yeah, no, and that's what's so frustrating. I have no answers for it. You'd like to think that the veteran guy on your team that's looked to as a leader would at least have some accountability for it, and it doesn't seem like it even bothers him that he's actively hurting the football team.
The lack of time that C.J. Stroud has is concerning to me right now. I think that what Seth said about the offensive line being the weak link of this team, it almost makes you wonder when you see these bad days with them if they really kind of overperformed last year, because it was such a patchwork of mixing positions around and stuff like that. So, yeah, it concerns me a lot.
Well, yeah, I like two things that you guys have mentioned. One, Seth saying the lack of attention to detail, and then you talking about just maybe did they overperform last season. To start there, have we seen them get better since week one? It was a great game, right, against the Colts. Joe Mixon came out and had a coming out party, but have we seen them get better in week two and now week three? And then also that lack of attention to detail. I'm curious about Laramie Tunsil. Is it specifically that a lack of attention to detail, or is it him trying to get an inch over the defense, just trying to be sneaky and not be lined up correctly how he should be? I don't know which one of the two it is. So
yeah, no, that's a very good question, Luis, and that is part of it. Is an offensive lineman, you're trying to time. You're not trying to leave after the snap count. You're trying to leave simultaneously with the ball. And the issue is that we've seen Laramie have this issue with multiple different centers. Well, none of the other offensive line in the league have. So maybe he's got rhythm issues. I don't know. I've never watched him dance, but none of the other offensive linemen seem to have this same problem. And the reason that it's frustrating is that a guy will do that, especially if he's in a pass set, to help with a speed rusher so he can get back into his pass set faster. But Laramie is so absurdly athletic that he doesn't need to be at the razor's edge of timing on the snap count to be able to handle guys athletically. And nobody in the league has as many issues with it as he does. You would think that as one of the better athletes in the league that he would have fewer issues timing up the snap. But year in and year out, he's the guy.
All right, well, we focused on so many issues. You bring up the word issues. Which issue most concerns you moving forward when you have another division game coming up against Jacksonville on Sunday?
Oh, all right. Well, if I had to let go of my offensive line worries, which tend to dominate most of my time these days, I think the general game plan in attacking the Vikings this afternoon, I was disappointed that they were as soft as they were on Justin Jefferson. I feel like, look, this is a team that's got a couple of really good cornerbacks, and you've got good players on defense. You've played solidly so far. Don't just give him free license to get out into zone coverage without getting checked at the line of scrimmage, without being manned up on somebody. Frankly, I was a little surprised they were as passive as they were in the first half. And it was a bit of a bend but don't break mentality. And I guess it worked on all but that short drive, but then the one long sustained touchdown drive that the Vikings had. But then in the second half, I think the Vikings took their foot off the gas a little bit just because of the game situation. So I can't even really credit the defense with tightening up in the second half. I think that was more a matter of Kevin O'Connell being smart and knowing how to preserve a lead.
I didn't like the tempo of this game from the beginning. I felt like the Texans got punched and they didn't respond.
Yeah.
I feel like they were out for the count today. And I didn't like that, kind of from I kind of guess more of a feeling perspective in this game. I just didn't like the way that they looked. They looked flat today.
Yeah, I'm going to say what concerns me the most is the offense, just because the whole hype about it going into this season was this five-headed monster. I haven't seen Bobby Slug really impress us, right? Just wow us, per se. I think that the passing game is lacking a little bit. Maybe he's having a hard time figuring out how to share the ball, even though today Tank Dale had over 60 yards, Stephon Diggs had nearly 100, and Nico Collins had over 80 yards. So I think today was a better example of it, but I still think that he's kind of struggling there.
I'm concerned about the running game. But I'm wondering if you get Joe Mixon back into the fold, does that cure a lot of these ills, Seth?
It cures some of them, but look, even today, Cam Akers he had to make a lot of his own hay past the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was ducking, dipping, and diving a lot just to get to the line of scrimmage at times on the very few positive plays that he did have. Yeah, I was going to go with the run game, but then I figured it was too tied into the offensive line since I'm trying to take a mental break from the offensive line for at least 3 minutes. I think that I do think Zach, it's a great point. And, sometimes, we shy away from diving into the cliches, but man, throw any cliche out you want. The Vikings look like they wanted it more. They look like they're the grittier, tougher team. They look like they showed up ready to play. I've got a list of 100 cliches that would apply today, and the Texans fell victim to every single one of them. The Vikings were just more ready to play tough physical football today.
All right, guys, because this is game number 3, is it easier to flush then, Seth, because it is game number 3?
I hope it's not easy to flush for them. I hope there are some tough lessons that maybe they had to learn. There's some, the old Jeff Van Gundy saying, don't ignore in victory what you would address in defeat. I think in the first couple of games, the Texans got away with being sloppy, but they came away with victories, partly because they were playing young, possibly bad quarterbacks. And you can't ignore that now. I think that there's an emotional sting to it. So, yeah, I kind of hope they can't flush it, and they're still carrying a little bit of that burn. I hope the offensive line at some point takes it upon themselves to actually be a little bit embarrassed about the way they played. I don't know if they have it in them, though. I don't know if they're wired that way.
Ooh. Oh. Yeah, great point, Seth. I think it's easier in the sense that this is the 3rd game of the season, so there's still plenty of season left. But like Seth said, you got to hope as a competitor this feeling sticks with you, because this team should not be losing 34-7. It just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's better to happen sooner rather than later, right? And at some point, it was going to happen. I don't think anybody expected that the Texans were going to go undefeated, maybe not even start 5-0, right? So I think it's good that they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson always said, everybody has a game plan until you get punched in the face, right? Yes. So now, okay, how do we respond? Texans, it's time to pivot. Let's make some changes. Something has to change.
All right, much more of a response from Seth this week on Sports Radio 610. Seth, as always, thanks for joining us tonight on Sports Extra.
All right, thanks. Yeah, Luis gave me a little bit of a pep talk there. I feel a little bit better now. I'll be angry again within an hour, but thank you.
Let's go.